With every gift comes a gift, and with every gift comes a challenge. With every challenge comes a challenge, and with every challenge comes a gift. Seeds of the World Tree, a primer on the basics of esoteric rune lore. The runes are not merely alphabetical symbols used in ancient Germanic alphabets. The history of the runes stretches back quite a distance, and while it is true that the symbols themselves likely find their origin in many cultural sources, the inner essence of the runes is something truly arcane and otherworldly. The first hint to the true nature of the runes is in the name itself, rune. It comes from the word runa, which means mystery. Most people are not even aware of this basic fact. The runes are not merely letters, but manifestations of the mysteries that deal with the foundation of the cosmos and every force or event that occurs in and around you. One cannot consider the inner meaning of the runes without understanding their relationship with the great Alfar, Woden, who was the master of the runes and mysteries, and the teacher of the recondite, wisdom to mankind. Woden won the inner knowledge of all mysteries or all runes through a powerful act of sorcery, an act of self-sacrifice, a vision quest of types in which he hung himself from a tree for 9 nights, wounded by his spear and without touching food or drink. This very shamanic seed-like working brought about his death, and he plunged into the dark void of hell, the realm of the dead at the roots of the world tree. There, beyond the darkness of that mysterious place, he saw what not even the wisest can see or know, the mysteries that the world tree itself grew from. When he was returned to life, his godly mind was able to crystallize the unspeakable mysteries he had mystically come to know in that deep state and revealed them in the form of the intelligible runic symbols. Through these symbols, human beings, themselves endowed with spiritual understanding from Woden, can also share in his deep mystical knowledge. Naturally, this tale of Woden's ordeal is full of sacred metaphors. The world tree is, of course, a symbol of reality as a whole. All 9 worlds rest within it, and it is the greatest manifest reality that all things are a part of. Hanging on the world tree has a deeper meaning when you consider it in this manner. Woden sacrificed himself to himself, or his greater self, for indeed his greater self, capital S, was part of all things. Interestingly enough, the world tree is seen as his steed. He literally rode the body of reality from its manifest form into its deepest and dark roots, penetrating all appearances and reaching the great runa or mystery that it all springs from. This is why his other steed or horse, Slinir, is often seen as the same as the world tree. And interestingly, his horse has 8 legs, each representing a world, with the rider, or Woden, representing the 9th or godly world of Asgard. By this steed, be it a tree or a horse, he is able to access all worlds, but more than that, to access the roots of all reality. In many Central Asian shamanic societies, the spirit of horses are seen as steeds for shamans to access other realities and worlds. This area of the world was probably near to the original homelands of the Proto-Indo-Europeans and gave rise to the common mystical traditions and themes that were found worldwide at this time. Havamal says that reality, symbolized by the world tree, springs from a place that none can know, none living or dead, that is. But Woden went beyond life and death to access the great mysteries. He plunged consciously into the deep realm of hell, or the dead, and remembered what he saw there and beyond. He was able to undergo death consciously and reconstitute the lore and wisdom he gained from the depths into a consciously tangible form, or the rune symbols and the lore that accompanies them. He stands in the Odinic paradox condition, which interacts with the living realm and the dead realm, but also with a greater understanding that contains them both and transcends them. Of the ruins, enough cannot be said, for they are each expressions of an infinite mystery, and each of the 24 runic powers represents a true seed that reality itself springs from. All manifest forces, all appearances and phenomenon, from men to animals, to giants, to gods, form this world and or any of the other 8 worlds, and the destiny of all beings are ruled by the forces of the ruins or the mysteries. A wise man or woman who penetrates the mysteries of the ruins can access an inexhaustible well of knowledge, just as the All-Father did, and gain a new destiny beyond life and death, just as he did. In the so-called beginning, only the great void of the Gununga Gap existed, and this void was charged with all the latent possibilities of all that would emerge one day. It was charged with the essence of Weird, and the runic powers are precisely that, the root powers of Weird. The runic powers were unexpressed, but latent in Gununga Gap. They were everywhere in the void, but undifferentiated, and thus incomprehensible. The void's first 2 expressions were pure energy and radiating heat, itself a manifestation of Fehu Ruan mystery, and deep contradiction and deep contraction and cold, or fire and ice. These were the first 2 worlds of Muspelheim and Niflheim, pregnant with their giantish, unconscious forces of pure raging energy and fire and dark contracting crystallization. Because of the dualistic first manifestation of fire and ice, the latent 24 runic forces became polarized as well into the shining runes, Heidrunes, and the dark runes, Mörkrunes. In this condition, there is conflict and attraction, and the polarity exists so that it might be rejoined and reassimilated in a manner capable of the full manifestation in the cosmos. In the creative conflict engendered between fire and ice, between the great polar forces, the primordial life material is created, the yeasty rime and slime that becomes Ymir. Within Ymir, the great living and gigantish bulk of primordial life, all of the 24 ruin forces exist, though still unexpressed. Within Ymir's body is the salt block, or the crystal pattern, represented by the 9th ruin, that will act as the underlying pattern of all forms to come. The void itself expresses Odhulmala, herself, an early manifestation of the Uruz Ruan mystery. Through a natural and spontaneous, organic act of expression, Odhumla represents the force of cosmic nourishment and heat, of growth and sustenance. She is aptly symbolized by a cow with udders full of warm milk, which nourish Ymir, and her presence causes this strange primal condition to begin to change slowly towards manifestation. Odhruma licks the salt block that she finds in the primordial mass of living matter, or Ymir. As she does so, she, the underlying force, begins to take a new phase of manifestation. While Ymir engenders more and more gigantic forces, or children, from his body, themselves manifestation of the Thursrun mystery, Odhumla gradually aids the salt block in giving forth another form of life, a truly conscious form of life, Buri, the first being we can call a god, For his consciousness was full and complete, not like the dim, oafish unconsciousness or semi-consciousness of the giants, nor the other violent natural forces surging through this strange proto-world condition. Buri is described as beautiful compared to the giants, of course. He is a being of the light of consciousness, a first manifestation of the Anzusrun mystery. But nothing is able to come to complete manifestation yet until Buri mates with gigantish maidens and has a son who likewise mates with the giants. See in this the forces of light and darkness engendering further forms, or the powers of consciousness and unconsciousness interacting. And finally, Buri's grandson, Woden, is born, a fully evolved conscious being of great power, drawn from godly and gigantish roots, or from the totality of forces. Woden appears in a trinitary form with his two brothers, Vili and Ve. But this trinitary form is still the singular power of the All-Father. He completes the task of primordial manifestation by slaying Ymir, sacrificing him, and then taking the 24 latent rune powers that were present in Ymir, or the body of primal matter, and arranging them into the world order, creating all the 9 worlds and bringing forth all life manifestation. The world tree, or the manifest web of Weird, now appears in its complete expression and now exists in the form we can experience it in our everyday lives. Woden doesn't stop there with the other gods who emerge and some that he fathers. He builds his godly hall in the superconscious heights of reality, the godly world of Asgard, and they take it upon themselves to protect the world order that they created from the gigantish forces that survived the world shaping. And those gigantic forces still exist and strain daily against the order established by the gods. Eventually, one day, they will overwhelm the world order at Ragnarok, and all things will collapse back into the basic embers and fires of the void, the Fehu rune. The first rune in the rune row represents the fire of the beginning, which is also the fire which will consume all at the end of the cycle of manifestation. And all things will collapse back to the ice. All things reduced back to the basic polarity that engendered the creation to begin with. All that will remain then will be what was, the yawning void, charged as it still will be with all the latent powers of the ruins and the fire and ice. And then the great process will repeat and new worlds will be born. But back to this world, for the world of this cycle still exists. Woden found 2 organic lumps of matter floating on the shores of a primordial ocean and bestowed form and spirit upon them. His godly mind gave them shape and vitality and breathed into them the owned, the spirit of the woman. Ask and Embla, who represent the ancestors of all humanity. But because we humans have the gift of spirit, that deathless mystery about us, we can access the ruins or mysteries by following All-Father Woden's lead and following his example in our particularly human manner, but still using the same mind he did, a mind in conjunction with Owned, or the godly immortal spirit. Like him, we can access great wisdom and even overcome death in a strange occult manner, but in a very real manner. When Woden sacrificed and chopped apart Ymir's body, the 24 runes became arranged into the runic row, the sacred order that we know them in. And that order is very important, for in that order, we see the pattern or manifestation. We see the pattern of manifestation, and we can see what was, what is, and what will be. The rune row is a complete expression in 24 symbols of the 24 underlying mysteries that act as the unseen blueprint of all things that manifest, and of all the forces that flow and cause the universal cycle to start, to manifest, to die, and to remanifest. You can see just by looking at the first 5 runes in the rune row what I am talking about. They are not arbitrarily arranged in that order of 24, but arranged according to an underlying cosmic pattern. The first 5 runes are Fehu, Uruz, Brz, Anzus, and Radio. Futhar. Fehu is the rune of the impelling fire, transformative and ultimately destructive. It is the fire of Muspel, which acts as the active power that starts the system. Uruz is the drizzle or rain that occurred between the primordial fire and ice, which gave rise to the primordial power, mass of life. And the cosmic ox, bovine, Odhumla, Uruz, is the mother of manifestation, the patterning, growing power. Thurs represents the appearance of the primal, gigantish forces, and Anzus, the appearance of the conscious, godly forces, leading up to Woden. Radio is the mystery of universal order, the right cosmic order, which is the order that Woden arranged the runes in, which also is simultaneously the order he shaped the entire cosmos into. Futhar is a runic formula, a rune row, which speaks of the entire cosmic creation. All 24 runes represents the total pattern. You could keep going from Futhar into the entire row. The 24 properly arranged runes tell the entire story of creation, starting from the shaping and formation, moving through the emergence of the Norns and expressed fate and time, to the rise of humans and their cultures, to the war of the world's end, to the rebirth. As I said before, the runes in their pure form are unknowable mysteries. But in this world of manifestation, they manifest as forces we experience. And they also manifest in the chain of cause and effect that lay them to be symbolized by letters. To make an example, Bjark, the birch rune, is a great mystery beyond words. But this mystery manifests itself as what we see as birch trees. In the lady's mantle herb, but also in the symbol Bjark itself, the form of the rune you see drawn or carved, and also in the B sound. It doesn't stop there. The mystery also appears in the color of dark green and in the qualities of motherly fertility and giving, the earth itself, and most esoterically, in the containment of all things in this very moment. The goddess Freya, or Berchta, is likewise part of the mystery. Though she is not this mystery, she is a goddess all on her own, but she manifests something of this mystery along with Hel and Nerthus, or Eartha. The human body can get into certain sacred postures called studur, which are also manifestations of the various rune mysteries. Each rune mystery has a goldur, or a sacred chant associated with its sacred sound. If a person were to assume the studur of a rune and chant its sacred goldur, while seeing nothing but the symbol form of the rune in their mind's eye, or by fixing their eyes on an actual carving or picture of it. And if that person chanted the Galdur over and over, filling the body and senses with the various manifestations of the rune mystery, they would become ve-helig, very holy, and wordlessly, indescribably penetrate into the inner essence of the rune or mystery itself, of which these other things are only appearances. This is a great key and basic of rune sorcery. Through penetrating the mysteries, one can go into the direct company of the gods, connect to them, or cause any change imaginable within the mind or body or world. By merging with the rune power invoked through the Galdor or sounds sacred to it, one becomes one with the rune mystery and unlocks its powers within their body and mind stream. By meditating on the rune form and by other esoteric practices, the rune sorcerer is capable of many amazing feats of mystical ability. There is another example I am fond of. If you wish to see the world, all manifestations as a great web, the web of Weird, you must think of the web as having 24 endpoints and a runic mystery at each endpoint. Each mystery would have a thread running to the center of the web. You and all things would be at the center of the web. No matter where you go, you are always mysteriously at the center, being acted upon by all the forces of the cosmos to a lesser or greater amount. The 24 strands would have cross strands, of course, horizontally running web strands, making a true web and linking them all together. The runic forces do not only act on the present moment, but they blend and affect each other, causing more combinations of force and reality. This is the notion behind the bind rune, or the rune roll, an arrangement of two or more runes or powers mixed together to create a formula of power. Any situation or force or phenomenon can be esoterically described by a mixture of two or more runes. This is an important understanding to rune sorcery, which is itself the craft of conscious beings utilizing the great mysteries or forces of the cosmos in their manifest form to weave new patterns of force and bring about needed changes. In this great web, man, gods, trees, worlds, and destiny all arise. At any moment, a person wise in the lore could see or come to know the configurations of runic forces which act on any part of the web or which act directly on the present moment, on the center, and form that knowledge, come to know what will be, as the forces make a linear cause and effect, progression on one level. This is the theory behind rune divination. When you make a rune cast or divine using the runes, the gods or your own guiding figlia, personal spirit, are revealing to you what underlying forces, runes, exist at the present moment, within or underneath each situation, affecting the situation. The runic cosmology is the finest and most subtle, penetrating cosmology to ever manifest through the minds of gods or human beings. The runes, the mysteries, the seed mysteries of creation are not conscious entities. They are forces that conscious entities can discover, and which the greatest of conscious entities, the Alpha, Woden, had to use or arrange or act upon to bring forth the manifestation of the cosmos. The world tree grows from 24 seeds, 24 hidden forces underlying all of the manifestation of reality. The rune forces can be accessed and used by conscious human beings as well, and manipulated. This is the work of the Ulian, or the rune sorcerer. The two great houses of Germanic esoteric sorcery or mysticism are found in rune sorcery and Sed. Sed is a more intuitive form of sorceress art, a shamanic form of dealing with powers of the natural world in a direct, intuitive manner, instead of dealing with the underlying runes. The Sed worker deals with the manifestations, such as animals, trees, and the like, by doing so in strange, intuitive ways. They are manipulating the same forces represented by the runes. This art, Sed, deals with the biological realities of life and the human body and vital sexual forces, as well as natural forces in their expressed form. Freya, the mistress of Sed, was the great mistress of this art and its mysteries. They are more feminine mysteries, requiring men to become mentally, physically, and spiritually receptive and passive in a manner that was considered shameful or unmanly by the mainstream or Germanic societies. The sorceress methods of Sed also include underhanded methods of manipulating other beings. another thing that would be seen as unmanly, but it is still a powerful art. Rune sorcery, on the other hand, is ruled by Odin and is a more intellectual craft, dealing with the underlying realities that we see all around us, expressed as nature and the mind and body. It is more masculine. It is a more masculine craft, some say, and it forms a perfect harmonious polarity with the more biological, intuitive arts of Sid. Woden and Freya became lovers, and she initiated him into the mysteries of Sid, teaching him that art. This union of the masculine and feminine, the intellectual and intuitive approach to the mysteries, teaches us much. The final mystery of the story of Woden's death on the tree is curious indeed. You may have noticed that the story of Woden's vision, death on the world tree, has a strange catch. If Woden was the rune master that shaped the worlds and gave rise to express reality symbolized by the world tree, why did he need to then hang from it and die to come to gain knowledge of the runes? This is not hard to answer. The story of Woden's hanging sacrifice is not only a story about a god, it is the story of a human sorcerer and wisdom seeker, hanging himself to achieve wisdom. This human myth is no doubt based on a historical event or a very ancient historical practice of ordeal by which sorcerers or shamanic practitioners hope to achieve wisdom through mystical self-sacrifice. Woden's spirit or Ond is within all people. When a mystic hangs himself on a tree and undergoes an ego death to consciously plunge into the depths of hell, Woden undergoes this experience as well, in a manner of speaking. The gods myth story sets a universal pattern of initiation, and thus we can see that Woden's hanging speaks to a timeless, otherworldly ordeal, sacrifice, which becomes actualized in the time-space, historical sense, through the mystery of his spirit in manifestation and in mankind. Woden's own realization, his own archetypal sacrifice on the tree, took place in a time before time, in the timeless space before the advent of Runic laws and the gifting of mankind with Ond or spirit. In some way, the birth of Woden and his own sacrifice realization occurred simultaneously. The story of the man-god hanging from the world tree is an expression of the bond or two-way relationship between humans and the Allfather. Without mortal men and women, beings who share the consciousness of the gods, to gain knowledge of the runes, the manifestation and creation of the world would not be complete. Human consciousness is not complete until it comes to directly understand its source in the runes or mysteries. The source of the hanging sacrifice is therefore a story of the completion of the world through human mind and body, the completion and exaltation of consciousness, the great realization of the mysteries that unites the godly and the human. It is Woden's great mind that undergoes this realization as much as a human mind, and he undergoes it every time a human successfully comes to the great realization of the runes. In the mystical understanding of Northern heathenism, we must never forget that the gods and human beings need one another. They interact and affect one another. In the great web of weird, the mythologies are not merely stories of the gods. They are stories of weird, relationship. All worlds affect each other. And what happens in this world does have an effect in the others. The seen and the unseen are related because they are both manifestations of the weird. An understanding of the myth of the tree, hanging sacrifice, cannot be found if you make a hard division between temporal human realizations and the timeless realizations of the Allfather. I do not have a source for this text. There's no name on it. It is anonymous. The cold ice brought the gift, the feminine impulse that needs the mind, creates the challenge, that brings the rise, that brings the rise. that brings the rise.